Hi there, John here at Microaces. Welcome once again to Microaces Workshop and to the third in the series of the Sopwith Camel build. Let's see where we've got to so far. And we're on page 13, we've just completed, and we've wrapped the airframe with the fuselage skin. We've added the tail skid too, and the turtle deck, and so we are on to the next page, which is stage 3, tail. So I'll get this out the way. So we've got some room to work on, so I can see it, and remnants of lunch. And let's get going. So we need the tail surfaces. So let me just grab that. In fact, actually, let's bring the manual back. Let's quickly look at this. So we've got some carbon fibre required. We've got the 1mm printed foam. We've got some stickers, and we've also got some plastics in the form of the control horns too. So so this is basically what we'll be going through in this particular video. So hopefully it won't take too long. Right, let's grab the parts. It's a bit tangled. There we go. So, oh dear, released. There we go. Sorry, the camera was wobbling all over the place. I managed to get the parts caught in the lead, leading up to the camera above. Sorry about that. Right. So, let's start with our Z4, which is our elevator, or elevators, one each side. Let's just free that. As you can see, when free, this has a weak point right in the middle there. So what we're going to do immediately is reinforce that with the supplied carbon fibre strip. Now this is a strip, not the rod that's in there. That's the axle for the wheels. But this strip. Now this strip should be around about the same length as the leading edge of the elevator. Slightly bigger, but we can trim that down. So I'll do that right now before full gluing it. So I'll just offer up and then cut that. That's about 5mm. There we go. And what I'm then going to do is just run a bead of Yoo-hoo down the edge of the leading edge of the elevator. So the technique I'm using here is I'm going to just make sure some of the glue attaches to the bit, and then I'm just going to draw it out, and then as the bead diminishes, just a very gentle squeeze. You can hardly tell you're squeezing the tube, actually. It's just a sort of almost an instinct. You just run down there. It doesn't matter if you get a thin bead or even just like a stringy bit, but as long as you get something on that edge. Obviously, we don't want great splodges, because what will happen is when you bring the carbon fibre onto that, it will squidge out the side and then go all over the elevator. So I'm going to just gently move that glue around so there's a nice sort of even thin smear of it, and just get rid of that glue by rubbing my finger on the build board so it all beads off. And then once that's done, I can bring my carbon fibre strip in contact with that leading edge. There we go. So that strip is actually 1mm by 0.4 mil thick. And so because this is a 1 mil piece of foam, I'm actually putting the 1 millimeter up against that side. So we've got the 0.4 millimeter increasing the width of the elevator by 0.4 millimeters. That's the direction, obviously, that the carbon fibre is strongest. So now we've bridged this very small area of foam and have a much stronger part. I've just noticed that when I took it off the sprue, I've just got a little bit of material protruding, so I'll just move that. Okay, so there we have our elevator, and we now need to attach that to our horizontal stabilizer, which is Z3. Let's just remove that. Go. Just remove the excess. There we go. So we're going to bring these two together, but obviously we're not going to glue them because the elevator has to flex up and down for the control of the aircraft. So what we need is some stickers, which are the hinge stickers, to bring them together. And you'll notice on the graphic too, there are some very lightly coloured lozenges which indicate the rough area where we're going to put these hinge stickers. Now they're S5, S6, S7 and S8. They're actually on this particular kit, they're all the same. The reason that they're numbered separately is that on some of the builds they are specific as to the position that they go. So, and that's due to the sort of the graphics on the or the livery, I should say. So I'm going to pop this onto the horizontal stabilizer, and you'll notice on the graphic on the sticker there's a line in the center, and that sort of denotes where you pop the sticker, so that that line is just in front of the back edge. So we'll just repeat that another 3 times. Notice I'm just using the knife as a way of transferring it over and keeping my fingers clear so I can see what's going on. So. Okay. 2 more to go. Now you can do this the other way around by applying these to the elevator instead. It really makes a little difference. And obviously on this build, because of the coloration of the parts, you know which is top and bottom. But if the aircraft has a similar top and bottom graphic, then it's always worth checking on the manual that you've got it the right way around. There we go. So we've got 4 stickers on, and now what we need to do, bring these together, but we need to leave a gap so that the elevator has the ability to flex. And actually I found a really good technique for getting a good position. What I can do is just I'm going to elevate the elevator so it's flexed up like that, and then I'm going to bring it in to touch. Like so. So I know that it's going to flex up to that point, and then let it fall down onto the stickers, and then I have my gap, and it's nice and even too. So it's not getting forced in any way. So there we go. Now while I'm here, there are a couple of slots in these two pieces. One is for the control horn, and the other one is to insert the vertical stabilizer. Now firstly, I'm just going to open up that vertical stabilizer a little bit more. It's a 1mm thick foam, exactly the same, made of exactly the same material as this, and that seems a little bit slim. So I'm just going to open that up. I'll show you a little trick when it comes to putting the vertical stabilizer. I haven't been drinking, honestly. It's just been coffee and tea. Maybe I need to drink. So all I'm doing is I'm using the side of the knife, and when I'm bringing it down to the end of the slot, I've got the knife reversed, so I'm not in any way cutting through any more material. So just opening that up a little, and then this slot here, we've now got a sticker covering it, and of course the control horn is going to be positioned by bringing it into contact with the lower part of the elevator. So I'm just going to put the knife through and run it all the way through, so you can see it appear on the other side there. So we're just cutting through that sticker to ensure that we can get our control horn in place. So, and then I'll go through from the other side as well, just opening it up. It's only the plastic that's used, the polyester, is I think 0.2mm or 200 microns thick. So it doesn't need to be a massively wide slot. So there we go. So that's all opened up nicely. Now what we do, according to our instructions, is this is now installed onto the fuselage. So dry fitting, as I always say with these kits. So you'll notice this this should actually slot under the rear part of the turtle deck, like so, and then should nestle up against the sides of the raised bits of the fuselage and tuck in there nicely, and the rest should just sit perfectly centrally. Obviously what we've got to do is make sure that we have that sitting at right angles to the line of the fuselage, the center line of the fuselage. That's looking good, and we also need to make sure that it's sitting flat as well, so just by looking down the bottom. And if it isn't sitting flat, this actually is pretty good. If it isn't, then obviously notice which way it's kinked off to, and then just remove some of the side of the fuselage that's causing that issue. Or it could even be the central keel, which may be raised slightly. You just need to remove a little bit of that just to make sure it all sits rather neatly in place. So, happy with that, I can now add a little bit of glue to ensure that it stays in position. I'm going to actually add it to the three surfaces it comes into contact with, so the keel and then the sides of the fuselage as well. I was going to say sparingly, but it seems to have come out quite quickly from the Yoo-hoo, me not paying attention and talking too much. So I'm just going to get a little bit in those slots that are between the fuselage sides and the turtle deck. And then I'm going to pop this into place, like so. Just check that it's all sitting properly. Obviously the rear of the fuselage should sit in the center of the V that's formed by the two sides of the elevator. Just make sure. And then I can actually use the lines on my board to actually just check if we've got everything lined up. And I'm pretty happy with how that's all sitting together. So now I'm going to pop that to one side, and now I can concentrate on the vertical stabilizer. Here we go. Z5. Remove that from the sprue. Try again. Not a particularly clean cut, so I'm just tidying it up. My knife needs a new blade. That's the joy of having a few days gap between filming, is that the knife then gets used for cutting down all sorts of bits and pieces, so it gets blunt quite quickly. Now, as I mentioned before, the vertical stabilizer actually sits into the slot in the horizontal, and it also, there's a little slot that you can see in the rear of the turtle deck too. What I'm going to do before we crack on is I'm just going to make sure that we've got that opened up properly. This is when I could do with that fresh blade. I should have changed it when I thought of it. But anyway, it seems to be going through eventually. So just want to make sure that the front edge of the vertical stabilizer sits into that little gap, that's that slot that's been created. So there we go. Just make sure everything still lines up. That's good. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually draw this, the little tab that sits on the bottom of the vertical stabilizer. I'm going to draw it into a point. I'm just going to use the end of the knife. As you can see, I'm going to use the curve there and just run it down so it pushes the material into an angle. I don't know whether you can actually see that on camera, but and then I'm going to flip it over and do the same the other side, so we actually get a relatively even point on that. So I've really sort of crushed it down into that point there, and then at the front edge where that goes into the slot, I'm just going to do the same. Now you can actually use this same technique for closing the white edges if you don't want to either colour them in, or if you're not too concerned about having the white edges there, then obviously you can just leave them. But you can actually use that same technique just for gently. You don't need to push hard at all. You just gently run it along there, like so. We've closed that down somewhat. So now this should quite happily sit into the slot like so. Now what we'll do is just glue that in place. Just running a thin bead of glue along the bottom edge, and that should hold everything in place. we go. So that should be sitting nice and upright. So we can just check that. And then we really do need to let that dry off nicely before we come to put the rudder on. And then we know that that's going to sit in place. As I've explained before, the Yoo-hoo is very good at holding things in place as long as it isn't moved during the setting time. If it is, then things remain quite flexible. So we'll leave that. I'll pause the video, and we'll come back when it's all dry. Okay, I've brought on the sprue, the wing sprue that's got the rudder on. So let's just grab the rudder. There we go. And let's just offer the rudder up just to see that everything fits okay. So I've got a little overstep of the blue on the blue sticker on the graphic. So what I'm actually going to do is just remove some of that material. It shouldn't affect the hinge at all, but just so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this to the side of the bench, move the board slightly, so I can bring that into contact easily. I'm sorry you can't see this, but it just means that I can slot the back of the fuselage over the board without bending anything or breaking anything. With you in a sec. Okay. Just move everything back. Okay, so I've actually just removed about 2-3 millimeters. Well, I'm being beset by these microphone problems, and I still can't work out why. I think the issue was when I moved the board back. It caused an issue with the connection. I'm still none the wiser as to why it's occurring. It's a pain in the backside, and makes me want to do these less and less. But I'm just going to have to change all the equipment, I think, and see whether we can do anything from there. I did complete the video, and then obviously went back and just after that point that we were up to, the sound broke up again and was making a funny squeaking sounds that that were coming through, which is a pain. So I've done a bit of deconstruction. I've removed certain things. As you can see, I've popped the control horns on, both on the elevator and the rudder, and I'd actually attached the rudder to the elevator as well. I'm just going to go through that stage once again for you. My apologies. We'll try and get this resolved. Might just give up doing videos altogether, but we'll see. So essentially, what we're going to do now is put our rudder sticker, or rudder hinge, I should say, into place onto the vertical stabilizer. The reason being that we've got to line up a graphic, and it's easier to do it at this stage on the vertical than it is if we attach it to the rudder and then try and line the rudder up. So literally we're just bringing the sticker into place, making sure we're lining the 5 up in this case. and I ran the checks again. Oh, hang on a sec. Let's not talk while we're trying to do this. Sorry, I'm a little bit pissed off, as you can probably tell. Go. It's kind of where I want it. It's all lined up, and then I added some glue onto the lower portion of the elevator, the rudder hinge, and then we just need to bring everything together. Oh, I did also when I married these two up in a kind of a dry fit. I noticed that this was a little bit too long. It overhung the graphic here, the blue stripe. So I also took some material off. I actually removed the sticker, put it back into the carrier material, and used my ruler to guide that cut, because it's obviously a much longer surface. So anyway, now we can bring all of this together. There we go. And we have our rudder attached, which is fantastic. And then obviously the next step was to actually put the control horns in place. The control horn that sits on the elevator, the base plate of it matches the colour of the underside of the tail feather, and obviously when you look from the side, you can see there the colour of the actual control horn itself matches what's sitting behind it, which is this blue portion of the rudder. And equally on the rudder itself, the base plate actually has a graphic that matches and lines up with the graphic on the rudder, and the actual control horn itself matches the color that sits beneath it when it's viewed from the bottom. So that's how that's all applied, and we just use a little bit of Yoo-hoo. I dry fit the base plate and the control horn together, and then that's Yoo-hooed on the underside of the base plate and put it into place. I actually used the tweezers to do that, to achieve that. But before gluing, I tend to once again dry fit everything just to make sure it goes into the slot. If the slot's not big enough, then obviously just open it up a little with your knife. But there we go. So that's our tail on. That is stage 3 complete. Let's hope that it's recorded my my voice again without distorting it horribly. Yeah, let's come back up off the billboard. Thank you very much for watching this episode, and I shall see you in the next. Cheerio.